Williams Formula 1 driver Nicholas Latifi is the first to admit that his 2022 season hasn't gone well, owing primarily to a lack of faith in the FW44. Is that all? Is he really a bad racer, or are the odds always against the Canadian racer? And even if he is, why is that? Stay tuned, because we will tell you a bit about him and the reasons behind his losses. Nicholas Daniel Latifi is an Iranian-Canadian racer driver who competes for Williams Racing in the 2022 Formula 1 World Championship under the Canadian flag. Latifi debuted in Formula 1 at the 2020 Austrian Grand Prix after previously working as a test and reserve driver for Renault, Force India and Williams. With Dams, he finished second in the 2019 Formula 2 Championship. He's been overshadowed by new teammate Alex Albon, who has struggled to adapt to the new car more than the former Red Bull driver. He's also had a string of mishaps that have forced the team to prioritize replenishing spares over preparing updated parts. Last year, everything was looking up for him. The Canadian gained significant traction in the second half of the season, frequently outplaying teammate George Russell. Indeed, Latifi finished 7th, just ahead of Russell, when Williams made its debut with a double score in Hungary. Unfortunately, 2021 ended with a late race crash in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which triggered a safety car and flipped the World Championship battle on its head. As a result, he received criticism and even death threats on social media from disgruntled Lewis Hamilton fans. That would have been difficult for anyone to deal with, and it was certainly on his mind as he approached 2022. He didn't need any more mishaps, but at the second event of the season in Jeddah, he crashed in qualifying and again during the race. Another major incident occurred when he collided with Lance Stroll during qualifying in Australia, though his countryman accepted blame from the FIA stewards. Latifi, of course, will not be demoted or replaced anytime soon. He is at Williams primarily because of the money he brings to the team through his billionaire father's Sofina Foods empire rather than because of his own merit. In Formula 1, wealthy drivers are not uncommon to have paid their way to the sport's top. Some have been very good, but some have also been very bad. Latifi raced in Formula 2 for 3 years before finishing runner-up in 2019. As many others have done, he used his winnings to buy a seat at Williams. Not to mention that Niki Lauda was a paid driver to get into F1. Before he cracked it, he had to get a bank loan to race in Formula 2 with March in 1971. Willy Webber persuaded Mercedes to pay Jordan for none other than Michael Schumacher to make his Grand Prix debut 2 decades later. Paying to enter F1 works, but once there, the moment must be seized and maximized, as those two legends did before. Latifi teamed up with George Russell for his rookie season in 2020, with records showing that after 2 years together, Latifi was never close to his highly rated younger rival, but then the Englishman is considered a prodigy. Albon was the king of karting, but his success in F1 did not translate, at least not to the level of Max Verstappen, the true benchmark driver of this era. As a result, the contest between Latifi and Albon will be intriguing and telling. Nonetheless, Latifi has 2 high-profile race impacting crashes on his record, Abu Dhabi last year and Saudi Arabia last week, prompting us to ask our Team Talk panel, does Nicholas Latifi deserve to be in F1? His crash at Yas Marina a few laps before the end of 2021 season and his crash in Jeddah last weekend changed the game for the 2021 championship and the race's complexion last Sunday in Jeddah. The answer appears to be obvious. F1 would be less fun without Latifi. Is he being comprised by the OFM to spice up the game and create content for new Drive to Survive explodes? These are the jokes that are being circulated on social media. However, jokes aside, Latifi is not and has never been the one-of-a-kind talent who has blown away the competition at all levels on his way to F1. He never won a championship, and his race victories were few when he spent years in lower classes with good teams and cars. Latifi could never compete with his talented teammates like Alex Albon and Nick De Vries. He appears to be a nice guy who works very hard. He is not arrogant or a troublemaker, and he appears to get along well within the F1 world. But is this enough to keep him in F1? It appears he has an ongoing contract that will provide him with at least 21 more Grand Prix to improve and prove his worth in F1. He may also have a greater impact on F1 because he comes with financial backing, which is exactly what Williams needs to get back to the front. Mazepin's financial backing is what allowed Haas to survive 2021 while preparing a good car for 2022 and making the 2022 championship more interesting, with one more team performing and fighting in the midfield. Drivers with financial backing have always been required to support the team and assist some teams in meeting their budgets. One could argue that there are better drivers out there, and I would like to see De Vries and Latifi's seat. This would necessitate a significant change in the F1 financial system, with better money distribution among teams and possibly more teams involved, with more seats available for pure talents. I don't see any reason for him to leave right now, and he still has time to prove himself until at least the end of the season. David Terrians. It's unusual for an F1 driver to admit that a lack of confidence influenced strategic decision making, even if his teammate is performing better. Latifi, on the other hand, is always refreshingly open and honest when discussing areas where he needs to improve. I just haven't had a great feeling with the car since Saudi, he says, even before the crashes. Any driver will tell you that if you don't trust the car underneath to do what it's supposed to do, it can be a very dangerous situation. I don't mean in terms of safety, I mean the car is catching you off guard, having incidents, and not being comfortable pushing the limits. So even when the pace is relatively okay or strong, I don't always have the feeling of okay. I'm happy with how I feel. That is something I believe will come with time. Latifi admits that he is uncomfortable with the car in general rather than in particular circumstances. It's all over. It starts as soon as you're not flat out on the straights. Alex clearly feels more at ease in the car. Regardless of the car's speed, we know we're missing downforce and struggling with balance issues. I mean, it's obvious. However, he is doing a better job of managing it. I need to reach that level, and once again, it's just a matter of feeling and confidence in the car for me. It's not a matter of driving style, or that I'm braking too late, not carrying enough speed, and so on. If you don't trust the car, you can't start working on the more technical aspects, and that will always be the case. So, confidence comes first and everything else is secondary. What exactly is going wrong for Latifi? Dave Robson, Williams' head of vehicle performance, admits that this year's cars behave very differently under braking and that drivers must adapt to a new feel. The rear of the car would have come up a lot in the last few years, Robson says, which obviously pushes the front wing close to the ground, resulting in quite different corner balance as you brake and begin to turn in. Because it's low and stiff and doesn't come up as much, this car just stays pretty flat. I don't think you can do much about it because that's what happens when you run the car's rear low and stiff. So you just need to find other ways, which is a combination of the car's mechanical setup and the driver's learning to some extent. That is what these vehicles now do. We could run it high and soft, but not quickly. Latifi believes that a more forgiving car will suit him better, and he admits that adjusting his approach to suit the FW44 and trying to find a setup that works better for him will be necessary. We don't know if Latifi stays in the F1 or not, but he is one hell of a team player and one who doesn't quit. Whatever the future holds for him, we wish him the best of luck and may get what he wants.